two of the biggest names in the sport face a couple interesting tests on what is a pretty deep boxing card. Let's take our first look at what is happening this weekend in the sport of boxing. Saudi Arabia plays host to a couple of big fights in the boxing world, and while there are certainly some moral, ethical dilemmas with a lot of those conversations, there is no doubt that big fights get delivered on these weekends, and we have another couple here in the boxing world. So let's take a first look at a couple of the big fights happening for Riyadh season here this weekend. For those on the stream, full preview of the card comes up a little bit later on. For those who are listening or watching after the fact, we are going to have the full preview coming out on Friday. So let's dive into it. In the main event, it is David Benavidez, who once again, excellent fighter, really, really good fighter, and is certainly, I think, deserving of being in a main event spot. But I don't think Anthony Yarde is necessarily the big name that Benavidez had in mind when, he claimed the WBC light heavyweight championship. This is... It's frustrating because it does feel like he keeps getting passed over for some of these big opportunities. When you're talking about like coming out of that fight where he wins the belt, it's either an opportunity at Canelo or maybe the winner of Beterbiev against Bivol, and that's hitting microphones now all over the place. Sorry about that. I'm just amped up for this. I really am though. But he keeps getting passed up for some really good opportunities, and so credit to him because Anthony Yarde is not a household name or anything like that. Good fighter though. This is good for him for keeping this up. But I have kept saying that, all right, a win here for Benavidez means big names to come. And win here for Benavidez means big names to come. I would imagine being one of the headliners on a card like this means that financially David Benavidez is going to be okay. But in terms of what he is looking to accomplish in this sport reputationally and trying to get those big fights and proving that he deserves to be on that stage, it does seem like those opportunities are kind of slipping away a little bit through no fault of his own. On the other side, Anthony Yarde, 4 fights in a row that he has won since a loss against Artur Beterbiev. There's also, there's a couple, it does seem like he is one where there's a ceiling. And once he kind of tries to venture beyond that and poke his head up into the elite realm, it does seem like he gets whack-a-mole back down. So while I do respect the talents of this particular fighter, I do not see anything from watching, I do not see anything from the resume, and I do not see anything from the resume of the others that he has fought that leads me to believe that this will be anything other than a Benavidez win. But I do still think like this is that opportunity to kind of have that big breakthrough moment, and who knows if Benavidez is looking past things or anything like that. But I do think a lot of the story of this fight is focused on Benavidez. And again, we will break this fight down a little bit more in depth coming up in the Friday podcast portion of everything here with Couch Potato Diary. As always, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Head over to seaofdead403.ca. Pretty good history of boxing here in Calgary, so you can celebrate it with some cool Calgary swag over at seaofdead403.ca. Co-main event, it is Devin Haney back in the squared circle, going up against Brian Norman Jr. for Norman's WBO welterweight championship. This is, like, Brian Norman Jr. is not a big name. This could be the one that gets him there. 28-0, coming off of the biggest win of his career, a knockout win over Jin Sasaki, going up against Devin Haney, who I have a difficult time figuring out where he is at. Everything that went on with that Ryan Garcia fight, and how it certainly didn't go Haney's way, but then Garcia tests positive for everything. And it ends up as no contest, no decision, whatever you want to call it. And it bounces back with a win. But for some reason, there's just something off with Haney now. And maybe that's a me thing, but he is going in there. I think if you were to just ask people, hey, biggest name in this fight, it's obviously Haney, right? Like, he is the more household name. This is a live opponent that he is going to be facing on Saturday afternoon with Brian Norman Jr., 28-0, again, coming off of the knockout win over Jin Sasaki in Japan, by the way. So I do think, best on best, we put them in a video game simulation, Haney is coming out with the victory. So a lot of the story of this fight centers around who is Brian Haney and what is Brian Haney at this point in his career. So some big questions to be asked coming up here on Saturday for DAZN. I believe it's DAZN. Anyway, either way, a big fight card. And like I said, there's going to be more from Couch Potato Diary coming up here in just a bit. But let me know, like, am I way out to lunch on any of the 4 fighters that we talked about? Either throw it in the chat or let me know in the comments and we can discuss there. Of course, if you are wherever you're tuning in to this, make sure you hit that subscribe button or follow, depending on the outlet that you are consuming this in. But yeah, for YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and get that notification bell a click as well. Leave a comment while you are here. If you're listening in podcast form, hit the subscribe button and leave a review also. And Twitch, we have some viewers there also. Again, hello to Toxic, and thank you very much for that. Hit the follow button, and if you have the means, a subscribe certainly would go a long way into helping things out around here as well.